if you've clicked on this video, you're probably bad at building roller coasters. So in this video, I'll show you 10 secret tips that make you way better at building realistic coasters. So let's get right into it. Number 1, angle snap. So for my first tip, I've got angle snap. If you don't know what angle snap is, basically, you have a degree and you can set it to which degree it snaps. So you can put it like to 11 degrees and then every 11 degrees it will have a knob. This is actually very bad because you cannot really decide what you build. Because just for example, you can't go like 5 degrees or something. It's just not possible with angle snap enabled. And another tip I can give you, just turn it off and get the distance and then make it to 4 meters. We'll come into that, why you should use 4 meters. But that's basically how you do it. And then to make it smooth, you just go every time you make a little adjustment. You'll get used to it, but promise me, it'll get better over time and it will really help a ton using it. So that's it for my first tip. Number 2, height. So the second tip I can give you is choosing the right height for your roller coaster. This very, very highly depends on what coaster type you're building right now. Because I'm building a flawless coaster, so that means there's no flaw right here. And you don't want to choose a huge height, so you don't want to go like fucking ham and go 40 meters. That's way too high, you know. You just want to go like I'd say 30 meters is pretty good height. Is also pretty big, but I think that 30 meters for such a type is good. But for example, for a giga coaster or just a giga coaster, you're not gonna use for a giga coaster a whatever 40 meter height. That's just not enough for a giga coaster. If you don't know what a giga coaster is, it's a non-inverting high-speed coaster basically, which drops from a high height. So it basically doesn't make any sense to make this small, and it doesn't make any sense to make a flawless coaster big. So that's the second tip I can give you, choosing the right height. If you don't know what the right height for your coaster build is, just maybe Google it, you know. Dr. Google is always there for you. Number 3, high G-forces. So the third tip I'm giving you is the high G-forces. The biggest problem I see is not looking at the G-forces while building. You don't want to exceed about 5 G-forces on the vertical one. You don't want like positive G-forces about 5, and negative on the vertical one is about like 1 you will maximally wanna get. Lateral G-force probably like 2, and forward G-forces doesn't matter. You can basically blend this one out. It's maybe in brakes it's necessary, but you can have as high as of a G-force as you want here. You're not gonna exceed anything. So just basically go ahead, and if you're not building a park, if you just want to build a roller coaster that's somewhat realistic, go to 5. Set your limit to 5. But if you're building a roller coaster that is in your park, you want to make money off of it, don't exceed 3.54, as that's the maximum the game wants you to. So you're basically not gonna build down and then have this corner. As you can see, if I test it now, you can just look at the G-forces. Here, 7.7. That's way too much. It's not gonna feel comfortable. What you can do about it is just get a very, very, very smooth transition to the ground. This one is not very perfect, but look at this. This is pretty smooth. And now if we test it, yeah, we've gone because of that little thing to 5 G-forces, but if you smooth it out, it's gonna be a constant 3 G-force about that. So just try to make everything smooth. Don't just build a looping that's like this, then that wouldn't make any sense, you know. Those G-forces would be way too high. So that's my third tip. Number 4, not testing with building. So the next tip is actually pretty simple. It's basically not running testing. It's a small mistake, which can cost you a lot, because just imagine you're right now building, blah blah blah. You're building here something, blah blah blah. You're not testing. Then you're building something very complicated here. Just say you build blah blah blah. Here there's something very complicated, and then you see, if you click test. Look at that hill. Oh, that's way too high for G-forces. Then you have to clear out everything. Everything. Every time you build something, just look at it. Look at the train, look at the G-forces, and then you're good. Number 5. Bad layout. So the next tip is all about layout. So I'm not saying that you always have a bad layout and blah blah blah. It's always your decision what is a good and what is a bad layout. But you should not have a layout that is basically like a really long track, and it only goes, let's say, here and then circles around with loops and everything. That's really bad and very cost inefficient. And a good layout, actually not saying that you're building a bad layout, is building stuff as close together as possible. So that if you have a loop, just if I'm building a loop here, let's say I'm building a loop, or you're building a loop. Okay, yeah, I'm not really building good right here. Okay, so let's say you've right now built a looping. Okay, that looks pretty scuffed, I know. When smoothed out, it looks better. So you've built a loop, pretty happy with it. So what do you do now is the question. So the thing you do not want to do is just go straight on, build stuff here, and then go back to the station. That's like legitimately very bad. The thing you would want to do, however, is making a turn. Not too high with the G-forces. And then staying basically from here in a area that is just like this big. I'm counting it on the screen right now, telling you. Or what you can also do is do a layout that goes straight for a little bit and then turns around and then goes straight right besides the track you just built. Which is a bit worse, as you don't have that free stuff of maybe just building a 0 G-roll, which you can also do, of course, but yeah, that's basically the tip. Just trying to not have any type of layout that will not cross on the own track. Number 6. Repeating elements. So, tip number 6 is all about repeating elements. That's basically very simple. I don't really have to tell you, but I still will. Very short. It's basically don't do the same thing every time. It's very boring. Again, reminder of the Smiler video. I try to make all inversions very, very unique. And that's something you will always want in every roller coaster. Just imagine going on a roller coaster in real life and you have 10 loops back to back. Like the euthanasia. But you don't want to build a coaster like that. And if you don't have any idea on what you maybe wanting to build, just go here. Loop section. You have a lot of examples here. Rolls. A lot of examples. You can maybe use them, you know. Just get a element right here. I don't really use them, as I think they're pretty bad for smoothing your coaster. We'll go into that. I don't recommend you using them, but you know, if you're starting, then go ahead and use them. Number 7, not smoothing correctly. So the next tip is all about smoothing. And smoothing is a very, very important part about building a roller coaster. And that's why I told you, don't use angle snap and get your little thing here to 4 meters. And if you don't know the 4 meter method, that's what it's called. Again, go to my channel. I have a little eye on the screen in the top right now. You can click on that. You have my video there, my smoothing tutorial. I'll explain it, how it works in this video. So just look at the video there, and then you'll find every info you need about it. Number 8. Wrong coaster type for wrong track layout. Next tip is all about you choosing the right coaster and then building the right layout out of it. So right now I'm doing a flawless coaster, as you've seen. And flawless coasters tend to have a lot of loops or vertical drops, which, yeah, kind of, you know, they have like dive drops, and just try to not make like a giga coaster with inversions or something. It doesn't make any sense, you know. Or don't make a family coaster with inversions. Don't make a typhoon that has no inversions, you know. I mean, the Smiler has the most inversions out of all coasters, and it's a typhoon. So just see what you're building. Or the hybrid coasters, they tend to have a lot of corkscrews or zero-G rolls, hardline rolls, you know, just stuff like that. And they don't really have loops or something like that a lot. So just be careful what you're building and what you're choosing. Number 9, addicted to inversions. So this next tip is very simple. Don't be addicted to inversions, you know. I am kind of. Every coaster I build has an inversion, because I think they're really good. But in a coaster, don't put too many of them. It's just sometimes less is more, if you know what I mean. It's just very, very, very janky and bad if you have on a coaster have like 20 inversions or something like that. Just try to keep it simple. Try to not have as much inversions. Even though you may like, you know, a lot of inversions on a coaster, it's just not really good, and it plays a factor in the category of the layout. Number 10. Not watching YouTubers. Next tip sounds a bit weird, you might ask, and yeah, it does. I have to give you credit for that. But it's not watching YouTubers. That was a helpful tip for me back in the day when I was not a YouTuber. Watching YouTubers will help you a lot. You'll learn a lot. You will maybe learn how to build a certain type of loop, a certain type of roll, whatever. You know, it's just very, very helpful. Very, very helpful. And I do count tutorials for that. So just try to watch tutorials. And another quick tip I can give you on the side is trying to build your track layouts before. So planning them. This is not something that's very necessary, but it's definitely something that will help. Number 11. Bonus tip. So number 11 is kind of a fun fact. You know, something you don't really have to. But not being subscribed to me. Yeah, that's right. What a plot twist, right? Yeah, that's kind of a stupid point, but I would really appreciate a sub, you know, or a like on the video if you enjoyed it. And I'm right now smoothing my coaster if you're asking what I'm doing. And again, if you want to see how I do it, just up onto my... Yeah, I'm done. Let's go. And let's just see the coaster. You know, you want to see it probably. So there we are at the top. Into a drop. A loop. Into a pretty good 0-G roll. Overbank turn, airtime hill. Another airtime hill into a banked corner. Into a dive loop. A corkscrew. And then in the end... Guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you've got some really good tips. And again, please like. I would really appreciate it. I would really appreciate you liking the video.